Hello, seekers, wonderful human beings, beautiful people, incarnated souls. At the request of some of you, I'm going to read and maybe discuss some passages of the Tao Te King, this ancient book from about 2,500 years ago, written by a certain Lao-Tzu. I'll dive into this English translation, which is classic, and into the interpretation done by Vian Den Groot under Spirit Guidance in 2019. I'll assume most of you are familiar with the Tao Te King, which is an ancient Chinese wisdom book from 2,500 years ago, more or less, written by a certain Lao-Tzu, meaning the old sage. So it may be a generic name rather than his actual name. And it might be much older wisdom, actually, much more ancient wisdom. So in Western translations, it's divided into 81 sections or chapters or sayings or maxims. But I understand that the original Chinese text was not divided, it was just one scroll. So I'll start reading from chapter 1. Of the classic Tao Te King. The Tao that can be described is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be spoken is not the eternal name. The nameless is the boundary of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of creation. Freed from desire, you can see the hidden mystery. By having desire, you can only see what is visibly real, or what appears to be real. Yet, mystery and reality emerge from the same source. The source is called darkness. Darkness born from darkness, the beginning of all understanding. So this is the classic translation. I'll read to you the equivalent passage from the interpretation by Vian Den Groot. Chapter 1. The impossible Tao. Why words fail us, especially those like God or Tao. That which can be named, defined, or described faithfully is not eternal and boundless. That which unifies heaven and earth has no name, no definition, and cannot be faithfully described. Naming, defining, and describing concepts, forms, and boundaries is the process of creation. From the one eternal and boundless living subject of a multitude of objects and concepts, dying to return to their source, to finally be free again, undefined and unnamed. Freed from desire and attachment for concepts and objects, one can glimpse at the hidden mystery and get to know the subject, union, and life. Caught in desires, names, and definitions, one can only find the limitations of eroding concepts and objects, and bend to believe in separation and death. Yet, subject, creation, concepts, and apparent objects all spring from the same source, the nameless, boundless, eternal, and unchanging, darkness within darkness, mystery beyond understanding. So, in a sense, this first chapter or paragraph would almost be sufficient to summarize the entire wisdom of the Tao. A wisdom that cannot be spoken, a wisdom that comes from accepting the truth of the oneness of the universe, of the indivisibility and undefinability of this gigantic vortex of light and dust that is the universe and beyond. But even saying that is an attempt at describing it which is doomed to fail, bound to fail. There are a few key sentences which are common to the classic translation and to Vian Den Groot's interpretation. Some combination of words just cannot be changed. Like darkness within darkness, freed from desire, freed from desire, namelessness. It's essential to understand that anytime you use language, you choose to simplify, to reduce a very complex multidimensional reality into a simplistic, conceptual, cartoonish, reduced version of a conceived reality, which is not the actual reality. So it's the impossibility of the Tao, the impossibility of writing about the Tao, the impossibility of speaking truly of the Tao, of writing on the Tao. You can only write about in a roundabout manner. You can only speak in a roundabout manner about this dark hole of infinite consciousness. Even this exercise of discussing around certain versions of this book is also an impossibility, and that's why, despite the repeated requests, I've never done it so far, because it's just not possible, and it's clearly spelled out in chapter 1. I'll read again the classic version. The Tao that can be described is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be spoken is not the eternal name. The nameless is the boundary of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of creation. Freed from desire, you can see the hidden mystery. By having desire, you can only see what is visibly real. Our identity as an ego is made of desire. Is made of the desire to be separate from the rest, the conceived rest of creation. because truly the universe is just one indivisible thing. But we have this power with our mind, essentially, and with our soul, to conceive of our separateness and to look at creation and the universe from a limited, specific, pointed point of view. The point of view of a small self. And that primordial desire to be as a separate entity is the root of not all evil, as certain people would say, but is the root of all suffering. Life, to a certain extent, is suffering. It is essentially negating the truth. It's negating the truth that there is only one thing that actually exists. As the Hindu say, only Brahman exists. Only the Tao exists. Only God exists. And that's why also the Muslims say God is great. Many Muslims are not even fully conscious of how great God is. It's great to the point that nothing else exists. Yet mystery and reality emerge from the same source. This source is called darkness. Okay, that's an arbitrary name, because there's no adequate name to call the source. Even source is not adequate, darkness is not adequate, Tao is not adequate. Darkness born from darkness, the beginning of all understanding. You know, when you meditate and you reach a certain degree of silence, you will feel this dark void within you. And some people are actually scared when they approach that realization of the absolute emptiness of their inner self, the absence of anything that can really truly define their being as existing. Many people are afraid of confronting that emptiness inside, and they tend to think that if it's empty, it means death. And in a sense, it's true, because it's the death of the ego, it's the death of who you think you are. But it's a necessary death to be born to who you truly are. You can't truly inhabit your being, your true being, if you don't first shed your false being, the being you constructed mentally from birth, even to a certain degree before birth. So, to be frank, I'm not really even interested in going through the other paragraphs, because this is such a personal exploration. I really encourage all of you to read the Tao Te King, to read also certain translations, certain interpretations. Obviously, I love the interpretation by Vian Den Groot. In a certain way, it's quite explicit, but the more you are in your ego, and the more you will find it actually extremely thick and making no sense, and it even contradicting itself. But that's the nature of multidimensional truth. a multidimensional truth is recognizable by the fact that the opposite, what appears opposite to a 3D Cartesian, rational, logical mind is equally true. That's the beauty of multidimensionality. It's something that quantum physics approaches with the concept that the cat is both dead and alive in the principle of uncertainty. But it's not even an uncertainty. It's a fact that multidimensionally both are true. And that's why also Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within and all around you. There's no contradiction there, because it's both. This is something that only in deep silence, in meditation, you can realize for yourself. And when you realize it, all of these scriptures become crystal clear, but also a bit mundane, trivial. And I truly, I don't even spend too much time reading any of that anymore, because it's obvious, it's like reading a book that would say the ocean is made essentially of water, and water has this quality of wetness. If you had just once in your life an experience with water, you recognize that these scriptures are true, but you also don't see too much of the point of spending hours reading about it. Because also there's no scripture that will make your finger wet, like the simple, immediate realization of dipping your finger into water will give you more knowledge about water and its qualities than reading a huge treatise about it. Yes, the treatise will contain certain elaborate facts and truths and some usable calculations, but you will still not know what is water by reading the book, as well as you will know by simply taking a bath or diving into the ocean. So I could try and read more, but first of all I have a little bit of a flu, which makes it not an ideal moment to do that. And also it would be a bit long. So for now, this will be the first video of a series on that subject. I will try and cover the 81 sections. I may not do a full video on each paragraph. I may group a few. I'll go along as it feels right. And let me know if you have questions already on that first part. And it's like the reality, which is, many people say the universe is a hologram, which means each point contains the entire information about the whole universe. And in a correct and actually integral scripture, a true scripture, has that quality of hologram, that you can read almost any portion of it and find the entire truth in it. There is even a physicist, not very recognized, who has posited that in the entire universe, as little as you go to the Planck scale of matter, there are an infinity of tiny black holes, which are actually all the same single black hole, which you will find also at the center of each galaxy and all over the universe. And all of these black holes are just one black hole. And it supports the hypothesis of a holographic universe. I believe he's up to something. He's on to something. I believe this is probably a very promising and avenue to improve in physics. Even though, no matter how far you progress in physics or any other exercise of the mind, nothing will give you a glimpse of the truth, the actual metaphysical truth, as a single moment of absolute silence, the silence of your identity, the absence of time, when you are the true you, in the true now, in the true moment. The you that is not you, in a time that is not time. That is absolute silence. And when that happens, you will realize that all of this is circling around the truth, but it's not the actual truth. That can only be experienced in silence, in the absolute silence of deep meditation. I will precise one more thing on meditation. Many people get meditation wrong. They think it's something that you have to do by focusing your mind maybe on your breath or on any point on a wall. And frankly, in my experience, that is simply an improvement compared to your your habitual state of ego-mind hypnosis, where you reduce your many thoughts and your many desires into a single thought and a single desire. Yes, it's a huge improvement in terms of noise. It's a huge reduction of noise, but it's not silence. In my experience, you experience true silence when you don't focus on anything, when you forget, you relax, you defocus, you forget your own existence, which, by the way, is an invention. So you forget about this crazy idea you had about who you were. You stop sustaining that fake identity. You just relax absolutely. Be now you. The universe, the entire and single oneness in absolute silence. And that is achieved not by focusing on anything. It's achieved by unfocusing. Nityananda calls it unclutching. I think it's a very adequate description, because there's really something about the functioning of a clutch and of people clinging to their self-identity or their desires or their thoughts, their narrative of their character, that is similar to the clutching. And if you can clutch, you can unclutch. It's actually easier to unclutch than to clutch. You need some effort to create a persona. You need an effort to create your character, your story, your narrative, your backstory. And there is no effort required to just be nothing in particular. To just be here now, you, the universe. So I encourage you to experiment on not thinking, on not maintaining an idea of who you are, on simply relaxing into nothingness, relaxing into the black hole, the deep void of nothingness at the core of you. that is the door to truth, the door to life, true life. This is the way that Lao-Tzu advocated. This is the way that Jesus advocated. This is the way that Rumi advocated. This is the way that Gautama Buddha advocated. It's very simple, yet absolutely elusive to most, because people don't even realize how engrossed, how attached they are to this idea of who they are and their narrative and their desires. They have many, many desires, even more than they know. So one way, it's a very long way, you can reduce your desire to a single desire, to find God, to find yourself. But it's even better to simply drop all desiring altogether, just relax and see. So have fun trying all that, and I'll see you on the other side. So long, seekers. Sayonara. Hasta la vista, baby.